Hi guys, it's Blackie. Okay, today we're going to talk to the Silverwolves about how to get a little more enjoyment out in the field. Okay, let's just be straight up and real. After age 50, we begin to lose muscle mass. Now, most of us realize that our waist kind of spreads a little bit and that our arms get a little thinner, especially back here in the back. Chest gets a little more drawn. That's just simply aging. And the body is now pulling a lot of that extra stuff out of those muscles that we're not getting in our diet because we don't digest as well as we once did. And we start withering a little bit. Now, exercise, diet, and there's other things that can help that. But one of the things I want to talk about today is something that is often overlooked, and that's our feet. Now, I'm not going to pull my boots off and show you my feet because I do not win any beauty contests with my feet, I'll tell you straight up. My feet have been holding me up a lot of years through a lot of very hard times and a lot of work. So my feet are not what you would call, photogenic. But, back to, when we stand up, the bottom of our feet is what's going to bear all the weight. Okay? Now, if you've ever seen people who went barefooted most of their life, they have these big broad feet, wide. Their toes are almost like fingers. They're so nimble. And it's simply because of them flexing them muscles as they walk. This is also why they're usually on uneven ground. And so they're constantly, their feet are having to flex to hold them at whatever angle there is. Now we go and put it inside of a shoe, and that eliminates that. Now it's just sitting on that. It can't grip that shoe but just so much. There isn't a lot of flexation. So modern man's feet is, for the most part, kind of weak compared to our ancestors a little bit. Just a little. And because of that, we have a lot of trouble later on in life. Now, those muscles that make up the bottom of your feet, those thick muscles, they wither over time too. And that means that there's less between bone and ground than there was before. This pressure of us standing or walking or whatever, because there isn't as much meat there, one. Two, our circulation isn't as good as it once was, causes lactic acid to build up in the feet and ankles. Lactic acid is a waste product of us working our muscles. And usually it's our circulation that pulls it and gets it out of there. But if we're not circulating that well, it builds up. And this lactic acid is that burning sensation. And when we were young, it's whenever we were 8, 9, and 10, and we'd run wide open like the wind until we just couldn't run no more, and we'd stop and our legs would burn. Or our chest would burn. That was lactic acid. Well, now we can just stand there and generate lactic acid. And because of that, it's causing that heat, that burning sensation in the feet. One of the contributing factors. Can be other things, there's their health concerns. But that's one of the things. Also, when we stand for long periods, because again, we're in a boot, that foot doesn't get to flex, those muscles don't get worked, there's not a whole lot of padding between bone and us. So the feet begin to fatigue and ache more. And so we come out here and we want to do stuff, we're wanting to be at this event, and we're standing up and we're walking around and everything, and man, our feet just go to killing us. Okay, that's the problem. Now, what can we do about it? Up until I retired, going on 3 years ago now, I was standing on my feet 8 hours plus a day. And I kept track one time, and I walked a little over 8 to 10 miles per day in a retail thing, walking around the store all the time. 8 to 10 miles I did in that store in an 8-hour period. And so, I mean, I was moving. I was never stationary, I was moving. So I can tell you from personal experience about this. The number one thing that got me through it was proper footwear and socks. Now, this is one of the things we don't think about. And a lot of you guys, you had white collar jobs and you wore thin little dress socks. That ain't what you need. You need thick socks. Those thick wool blend socks like for hunting. Now, here's what I have done and I have shared with other people and it's helped them. So I'm sharing it with you. On a day when you're going to be cutting the grass or something like that, or you're standing up at church all day, someday you've stood on your feet several hours, okay? That's when you go look for new shoes. Your feet swell because remember it's not circulating that well. And so being out here standing, working, being at the church, at the family picnic, whatever, doing the big grocery shopping for several hours, Christmas shopping, whatever, our feet actually swell up to a half size bigger because of it's kind of trapped, it's kind of puff up those tissues to give us a little extra padding. That's the size we should match for our outdoor hiking, camping, work, being out in the wood boot. Not our, we've been on the couch all day and we come in and we fit. They're two different sizes. So for example, if you put me against a grindstone, I would actually wear like an 8.5 dress shoe with a thin little dress sock, like an 8.5. But my working size shoe was a 10 and I wore thick socks. Well, that adds an extra layer of padding between me and that boot. It also gives my feet something to flex against. It's more padding for my feet to actually grip and therefore increase my circulation of my feet as I walk. Okay? The other thing is carrying extra socks, because when your feet go to hurting, and they've been hurting like 30 minutes and they just don't seem to want to quit, change socks. Let me say that again. Change socks. What's happening is that padding of that sock has got compressed now because you've been walking for an hour and a half or you've been standing on your feet for 2 hours or whatever, and your body weight pressing straight down between that thin bone, that thin piece of meat underneath that bone has slowly compressed it down till it's as flat and bitten as it can be, and it's lost that loft, that spongy, that carpet-like quality. And because of that, now it's cutting off and limiting circulation. Change socks. Put on a new pair of fluffy socks that you brought with you. Or at the very least, pull those socks off, turn them inside out, and put them back on. I've done that before too. And you'd be amazed how much better your feet feel. It really is just like, wow, you know. And it's because I put padding back and that released that circulation to have flexing when I'm walking again, and therefore I increase the circulation. I get the lactic acid out. I get blood circulation in. My tissues are not starving for oxygen at the same time that they ain't got trapped lactic acid in there, and my feet feel better. It's one of them funny things that, you know, you wouldn't ever hear a bushcraft video about this, but the U.S. Army did extensive training of this back in World War II and stuff, back when soldiers walked everywhere. They harped over and over again. They had wool blend socks, and they harped over and over again about taking your boots off when you got a chance, rubbing your feet, putting powder into your socks to help keep them dry, to keep down trench foot, sitting there massaging your feet to get circulation back into it. Now, didn't they? A lot of you old vets remember that. Especially in cold temps, when everything's cold, restrictive, bad, build up lactic acid, we're not getting enough warmth in there, frostbite's a danger, etc. In the heat, swamp, trench foot can set up unless we keep circulation, keep it dry, and etc. And they used to tell, you know, carry 3 pair of socks. Wear a pair of socks. When the feet go to hurting, change socks, tie that into your ruck and let them air out and dry as you're walking. When you get to a water source that you can rinse them out, tie them up there and wash them that way. And people kept socks. Look at them old pictures of a lot of Korean World War II, World War I on the march, and there's socks hanging off of somebody's ruck. There was a reason for that. That was standard discipline, standard stuff. To the point that if you got trench foot, they wrote you up. You weren't doing your job. If you were complaining all the time about how my feet hurt and you had all these blisters, that means you weren't doing your job. And they'd write you up because you were just trying to get a quick thing to go back and talk to the nurses in the rear station. We know that. But the thing about it is, it's something that we today, as us old silver wolves, can do. So, if your shoes feel real tight at the end of the day, they're probably a size too small. Go up a half size. If you don't want to invest a lot of money, here's a suggestion I make to people. Find a Goodwill or something like that and find a used pair of boots one size up or whatever. So if I wear an 8, get an 8.5. If I wear an 8.5, get a 9. Just get a junk pair of boots you don't care nothing about out of a Goodwill to test this theory. Put on these socks and do your housework, cut the yard, whatever, and see if your feet feel better. It makes a difference. It really does. Our old aches and pains just don't go away. And getting old ain't for sissies, but we can do something about this. We can simply get a better fitting boot and get thick socks. Be aware that when my feet go to hurting, why are my feet hurting? Or at least one reason. You may have a medical condition that has something else to do with it, diabetes or whatever, neuropathy or etc. But I really think a lot of times them doctors throw that word neuropathy around as a sort of a catch-all, do-all, because they told my wife she had neuropathy in her feet, and it's just always going to hurt like that. And I got her a pair of light hiking boots and thick socks, and she didn't want to wear them because they're not pretty. She wants to wear flip-flops, and I said, no, you're going to go to work wearing these. And we argued about it, and so the next day when she got up, I had hid every pair of shoes she had in the house. Every one of them. The only thing left for her to put on, and she's got 20 minutes before she's got to be at work, was the boots. She was pissed, boy, woo! But that was her only choice, and she had to wear them. And 8 hours later, when I picked her up, I said, how do your feet feel? She wouldn't talk to me. It means I'd been right. Now, she has a pretty pair of hiking cross-trainer shoes, and she carries extra socks, puts extra socks in her locker. And on them days when the weather's changed or whatever, she has to stand on her feet. If her feet go to hurting, when she gets a bathroom break, she grabs a pair of socks and she swaps them out right quick. Makes a difference. Hope you've enjoyed this, guys. If you have, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And there'll be more stuff coming for the Silver Wolves. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.